January 1917. Somewhere beneath the streets of London, a coded message passes through the hands of two British cryptanalysts. Within weeks, this single telegram will drag America into the bloodiest war the world has ever known. This is the story of the Zimmermann telegram, a diplomatic gamble so catastrophic that it would reshape the 20th century and redraw the map of global power. Imagine this. You're sitting in the White House trying to keep your nation out of a war that's already consumed millions of lives. Then someone hands you proof that Germany wants Mexico to invade. Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. Germany promised all three to Mexico in exchange for opening a second front, and they put it in writing. The only problem? The message had to travel through cables that Britain had been secretly tapping for nearly 3 years. Germany never saw it coming. To understand how this telegram changed history, we need to go back to August 1914, the first days of the Great War. Within hours of Britain declaring war on Germany, the British cable ship Telconia steamed into the North Sea. Its mission was simple but devastating: cut Germany's 5 transatlantic telegraph cables. This single act of sabotage forced Germany to route all diplomatic communications through neutral countries whose cable lines ran straight through British-controlled territory. In a building near London's Trafalgar Square, a group of linguists, classicists, and mathematicians gathered in a cramped, smoke-filled office. They called it Room 40. Room 40's greatest asset came from tragedy. In September 1914, the German cruiser SMS Magdeburg ran aground in Russian waters. When Russian divers searched the wreck, they found something remarkable. On the body of a drowned German sailor, they recovered the Imperial German Navy's codebook, the key to decrypting German naval communications. The Russians passed it to the British within weeks. For the next 3 years, Room 40 quietly intercepted and decoded German messages. They learned about submarine movements, military strategy, even diplomatic negotiations. And they waited. By January 1917, Germany was desperate. The war had become a grinding stalemate. Millions were dead, and Britain's naval blockade was slowly starving the German homeland. German High Command made a fateful decision: resume unrestricted submarine warfare. Sink any ship neutral or enemy that approached British waters. They knew it might bring America into the war. Their calculation was simple but brutal: starve Britain into submission before American troops could cross the Atlantic, and if America did join, Germany had a backup plan. On January 17, 1917, German Foreign Minister Arthur Zimmermann sent a coded telegram to the German ambassador in Mexico. The message would become one of the most consequential documents of the 20th century. The telegram proposed a military alliance with Mexico against the United States. In exchange for opening a second front, Germany offered generous financial support and a stunning territorial prize. Germany promised that Mexico could reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona land Mexico had ceded to the United States after the Mexican-American War 70 years earlier. Here's where the story gets almost absurd. The telegram had to travel from Berlin to Washington to Mexico City. And the fastest route? Through cables that America had agreed to let Germany use. The United States, as a neutral power, had agreed to transmit German diplomatic messages as a gesture of goodwill. They were literally carrying the telegram that proposed their own invasion. But every message passing through those cables also passed through British listening stations, and within days, the coded telegram landed on the desks of Room 40. 2 cryptanalysts, William Montgomery and Nigel de Grey, began working on the cipher. The German diplomatic code was different from the naval code they knew, but they had partial keys from earlier intercepts. Day by day, word by word, they cracked the message. And as they did, they realized they were holding dynamite. "We intend to begin on the 1st of February unrestricted submarine warfare," the telegram began. "We shall endeavor, in spite of this, to keep the United States of America neutral." But the heart of the message was the proposal to Mexico. Make war together, make peace together, generous financial support, and an understanding that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory. Now the British faced a dilemma. They had the most explosive piece of intelligence imaginable, but revealing it would expose their ability to read German codes and show that they'd been tapping American cables. Admiral Reginald Hall, the director of British naval intelligence, devised a clever solution. He needed to find a copy of the telegram that could plausibly have been obtained through other means. British agents in Mexico obtained a copy of the telegram from the Mexico City Telegraph Office. This version had been re-encoded using an older cipher that Room 40 knew completely. It was the perfect cover story. On February 24, 1917, the British ambassador handed the decoded telegram to President Woodrow Wilson. The room went silent as Wilson read the words. Wilson faced an impossible choice. Releasing the telegram would almost certainly push America toward war, but keeping it secret while Germany sank American ships seemed unconscionable. On March 1, 1917, American newspapers exploded with the story. "Germany seeks alliance against U.S.," screamed the headlines. Public opinion, long divided over the war, began to shift. Many Americans initially suspected the telegram was a British forgery, a trick to drag them into the war. German sympathizers dismissed it as propaganda. Then Arthur Zimmermann did something extraordinary. On March 29, 1917, Zimmermann stood before the German Reichstag and admitted the telegram was authentic. He confirmed every word. It was a diplomatic catastrophe of almost incomprehensible proportions. Historians still debate why he did it. Some believe he thought honesty would somehow diffuse the crisis. Others suggest he was simply too proud to deny his own handiwork. Whatever the reason, he sealed his nation's fate. President Carranza of Mexico did consider the offer seriously. His military advisors studied the proposal for weeks, but they reached an unavoidable conclusion. Even with German financial support and Japanese assistance, which the telegram also proposed, Mexico could not win a war against the United States. The industrial and military disparity was simply too great. Meanwhile, German submarines were doing exactly what the telegram warned, sinking ships at an alarming rate. American vessels, American lives. The pressure on Wilson became unbearable. On April 2, 1917, Woodrow Wilson stood before a joint session of Congress. "The world must be made safe for democracy," he declared. 4 days later, America was at war. The vote was overwhelming, 82-6 in the Senate, 373-50 in the House. Less than 3 months after the telegram was sent, the United States had joined the Great War. American troops would tip the balance on the Western Front. Over 2 million soldiers crossed the Atlantic, and when the guns finally fell silent in November 1918, Germany had lost everything. The Zimmermann telegram didn't cause American entry into World War I. The submarines sinking ships and killing civilians would likely have brought America in eventually, but the telegram accelerated everything. It united American public opinion in a way nothing else could. Here was proof confirmed by Germany itself of hostile intent against American soil. Neutrality became impossible. The Zimmermann telegram teaches us something profound about the nature of secrecy and communication. Germany assumed their codes were unbreakable. They weren't. They assumed cables routed through neutral countries were safe. They weren't. Every message you send travels through infrastructure you don't control. In 1917, and today, if you want to see the original Zimmermann telegram, you can. It's on display at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., one of the most consequential pieces of paper ever written. The National WWI Museum in Kansas City also offers excellent exhibits on the telegram and the intelligence war that surrounded it. Both are worth a visit. And if this story captured your imagination, subscribe to hear more like it. We bring forgotten history back to life every week. Room 40 continued its work throughout the war and beyond, eventually evolving into what we now know as GCHQ, Britain's Signals Intelligence Agency, still operating over a century later. The cryptanalysts of Room 40 had proven something revolutionary. Signals intelligence could shape the course of history. Nations would never forget that lesson. The Zimmermann telegram also reshaped the relationship between Mexico and the United States. Though Mexico declined the offer, American suspicion of its southern neighbor persisted for decades. For Germany, the telegram represented a catastrophic failure of imagination. They could not conceive that their secret communications were being read by their enemies in real time. In our age of encrypted messaging and quantum computing, the fundamental lesson remains: secure communication is never as secure as you think. The cables still run under the oceans. The messages still flow through choke points, and somewhere, someone is always listening. A single telegram, 161 words, that would reshape the 20th century. written in secret code, intercepted by clever minds, and confirmed by the man who wrote it. Arthur Zimmermann's gamble brought 2 million American soldiers to the battlefields of France. It ended an empire and launched a century of American global power. All because someone paid attention to what was flowing through those cables and had the patience to decode what everyone else would have ignored.